What's up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome. Aloha Wednesday, I guess. Hump day. Been a rough day. Been a rough day for a lot of us. Um, Charlie's actually on Oahu. He got called to work. He'll be on Oahu for the rest of the week. So I don't expect him to jump in. I'm not sure if he's gonna be able to, but um, just wanted to start on and have a short discussion before our guest comes on tonight. I got to be honest. I'm so thankful that tonight we have Doctor Mayor, former Mayor Harry Kim from the Big Island. He's Yoda. He's one of my senseis, my mentors, somebody I look up to with the utmost respect. Somebody that is cool, calm, and collected. I think nothing happens by accident. Nothing happens by accident, and we didn't plan it this way, but that's how it turned out. It just happens that tonight we have a very wise man, a man with a lot of experience in leadership, true leadership, leadership for the people, a man that is genuine and a damn hard worker. And so I'm looking forward to tonight. Uh, for one reason is so he can share his insights of what's going on in our crazy world. But the other thing is he's like therapy for me. Uh, just the soothingness of his voice. I said earlier we had a rough day for a lot of us. I want to thank each and every one of you that send out prayers for Brittany Cavallo. Many of you know Brittany, and many of you know her dad, former Mayor Bernard Cavallo, Councilmember Cavallo. Um, I'm not sure why, but I had this urge to call him this morning. And wow, he was struggling. His daughter's not doing well, COVID, 7 months pregnant. And he asked me to, said he's in the best facility. He's at Queens, she's at Queens. But what they needed right now was spiritual prayer, blessings, and asked me if I could ask for some prayers. And obviously, that's why I made my post. And you all responded. You all responded. Uh, Much more than I expected. I wanted 100 shares. Last I checked, we had 163. I don't know what it is now, but I believe in prayer, um, and I appreciate y'all jumping in on the prayer circle. I, she's a mom, she's a daughter, she's an amazing person. She's a school teacher, and we really need the prayers and blessings for that entire family, especially for Brittany and her unborn child. Right after I hung up the phone with Bernard, I got a text. A very good friend of mine. I'm not gonna mention names. You guys, many of you probably already know, but a police officer here in Kauai, in his 40s, has a family, lost his battle with COVID today. Um, and as I sit here tonight and I anticipate some of the comments coming through, and I've been very active in participating in a lot of conversations, listening to both sides, and hearing how some people still believe that COVID is like the flu and that it's mild. I hear our leaders today. Right before I called Bernard, I listened to Mayor Blangiardi's ridiculous press conference. Ridiculous. It was embarrassing. It was insulting. It was demeaning. I was already upset with that. To watch his so-called advisory team And we'll share about this again when Mayor Kim comes on. But listening to him just pass this off as a mild illness, and listen to his corporate advisors. There was not one medical expert up there. There was corporate CEOs and presidents of medical organizations. There was not one medical doctor that is on the front line that is working with COVID patients day in and day out, like our experts that we bring on the show. Not one. They had a woman who, I don't know what the hell she is, some kind of nurse or whatever, that thought she was at the Emmy Awards or whatever. She absolutely made no sense. And then all the rest, from Hilton to, I don't even know their name, Dr. Mugoishi, who actually lied and said that we have all these therapeutics and monoclonal antibodies, which we don't. There's a shortage. But I think this constant minimization of this very dangerous virus, I am at the point, right? I'm at the end of my rope. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Um, to hear the state say that there's 800 school teachers that were out sick today, and then to hear the state say that the schools are the safest place for our kids. To hear Blangiardi say 50% capacity reduction in events that have 1,000 people or more. So bars, restaurants, all of these clusters, these petri dishes for COVID are not affected at all. To hear them say how safe it is, and then to hear this afternoon the state legislature come out and said, due to the rising cases of COVID, we cannot open the Capitol to the public. I am so over the hypocrisy, and Mayor Kim is in the waiting room. I think he's listening. And I wanted to get this in before he came on because I know he's going to scold me. But I'm going to try to maintain my cool tonight because it was a rough day. My nephew's two children tested positive today. This virus is running rampant. I've had several messages today from parents on Kauai that had their kids sent home, tested positive. And yet our leaders continue to tell us that it's safe enough that you can allow bars and restaurants to continue at full capacity with no social distancing. But we cannot open our state capital for the public because the concern of the rising cases of COVID. So again, apologize for the little vent, but I had to call my pastor today to get some spiritual guidance because it's hard. It's hard. We're gonna bring in Mayor Harry Kim. And we're gonna have an awesome conversation today, tonight. Mayor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you
Oh
very
my
much.
God, you look like you were frozen. I thought, here we go. Now we get technical difficulties to add to my stress. Um, I'm not gonna really deal with people on this thread tonight. That I hope people go out and live the life that we have prior virus. Stop the fear. I respect everybody's opinion, Jeffrey, and I know you for a long time, buddy. We've been buddies, and you're still my friend. But what we do is not fear. What we do is facts. It's facts, and maybe you haven't been touched by COVID. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. I hope not. But this is not fear. This is not fear. This is, you know, and I didn't tell my story to get sympathy. I'm telling my story. I'm sharing my story. We have someone that's fighting for her life right now at Queen's Hospital with an unborn child. And I don't know if you were, Mayor, you weren't on. Our beloved Mayor Cavallo's daughter is in the hospital. And I can say this because he asked me to share and to ask for your prayers. So I'm not going to sit up. I'm not going to block nobody. You get personal, I will. I respect everybody's opinion, but at the same time, I hope you respect mine and that this is not about fear. We lost a police officer today in his 40s, a very close friend of mine, to COVID. It's not fear. This is real. And all my point that I'm trying to make, and I'm hoping to get the mayor's take on this, because the mayor, as I said earlier, guys, Mayor Harry Kim is a leader of the people, proven, still fighting for the people today. And I want to get your take on this because this is where we're going to start our discussion, Mayor. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. And I apologize because I'm not feeling really good right now. But I wanted to have the show because I didn't want to lose this opportunity to chat with the mayor. We have a situation now that this virus is running rampant across the world, across the globe. We're seeing the impacts across our country, and it's crippling our healthcare systems. It's crippled our healthcare system here. They're not telling us that, but if you talk to the people in the healthcare industry, the nurses, the doctors, we are already crippled, and they're banking everything on 700 plus workers that they think they're going to get. But this is where I'm having a problem, Mayor, and I'm gonna share my concerns and my observations, and I'm gonna put you on the screen because I really want to hear your thoughts. We have my observations now, purely my observations, but we have a situation where we have a very dangerous virus that is being touted as a mild virus, that is being touted as not as bad as Delta. Much more contagious, but not as bad. We have a situation where hospitals are filled up, not with COVID patients, but with patients in general. We have this constant message of how good a place we're in, that we have 70+% people totally vaccinated, which is not true. We have about 25% of our population that has had the booster. We have these conversations, we hear these people telling us how safe it is to send your kids back to school. And yet 800 teachers weren't at work today because they were sick. We have students being sent home today that are positive COVID already. Day 2, day 3. We have this constant message from the state leadership that it's mild, that it's safe enough to open everything up and enjoy life. We had Mayor Blangiardi today in his press conference, talk about how he's cutting the capacities of events, indoor events, to 50%. But it only impacts events that have over 1,000 people. So all of the bars, restaurants, nightclubs, lounges, all of that is not impacted. There's a 400, I just read there's a shortage of 400 substitutes. There's 400 substitute requests that cannot be filled. But our kids, it's safe enough for our kids to get back in school. And then the last observation, Mayor, and I really want to get your insights on this, is that the legislature came out today and said, due to the rising costs, rising cases of COVID, they cannot open the Capitol for the public to come and participate in their government. I see the hypocrisy, because you're telling the world, the state, that it's safe to do what you normally do, and we don't want to close anything down, and it's safe enough to keep everything open, but it's not safe enough to allow you to come in with safety protocols, with a mask or your vaccination card or a test, as you do for a bar or restaurant, but you cannot do that at the state capitol because of the rising cases of COVID. It's pure hypocrisy. Pure hypocrisy. And I know, Sensei, you tell me, and one of the things we do want to discuss tonight is how can we all come together That's what we try to do here in the village. This is what we try to do on our show. I am not seeing any type of um, what word am I trying to find? Any kind of the bottom line, the state is not listening. They're not listening. They have set their agenda and they're moving forward with the agenda at the cost of lives. And so I'll end it there, Mayor, and I'm going to turn it over to you again. I appreciate you for sharing your time with us tonight. Um, thank you.
I know what you're saying and I know what you're feeling in part. A lot of those feelings are being shared not because of that degree of tragedy, but a degree of fear. Well, not trying to disagree with you, but that is for many. Fear because of uncertainty of what's going on and what will be. We no right or wrong here because I've thought over what I cannot do. I cannot add to that fear. I cannot add to the distrust and uncertainty to the people of this land. And as difficult as that it is, saying that and how difficult it is to do that, Mel, you and I have that responsibility as difficult as it is. We have to be 100% honest, but we have to be, in the end of what we say, productive, not just criticism. I learned that so long ago. Welcome all productive criticism so we can go ahead and not just to criticize and grandstand. With that said, I would say how difficult it is, especially in times of individual sadness or fear or uncertainty. Now, let's take what is fact that we know. Now, first of all, before I go into that, I think I said it on one of your first shows that if you go to the Hawaii County Civil Defense, sitting there, many times the staff know I sit there in the dark alone, thinking things through of what direction, et cetera, what my mission is, et cetera, et cetera. Sitting there, I remember having the staff print something up, and I think it's still there, although I haven't been in there for almost a year now, that said this is a community issue, and it will take a community to get through and resolve it. And we have to bear that in mind. In regards to going back to factual information, it is the fault of all of us that are responsible for giving information that is misinterpreted or misrepresented or not in whole. I think those that are out there that are professional communicators know that to say one thing of policy or anything in one newspaper headlines is ridiculous to expect people to understand the whole. To say it in one television press conference or anything or one group exchange is ridiculous. So they talk about repetition, consistency, and all of that. All of us who are responsible for public information, and most of us are, whether it's one and one or the whole mass, have failed. We have failed the public who depends on good information. How can I say we have not failed? On any given day, you will hear people in this state, in the nation, other countries contradict each other or put down others' position. I promised myself this before we went on the air, Mel, that I would not join that, so I will not mention names. But I'm sure some of your viewers know that. We have people that grandstand and they confuse others because they criticize other sources as wrong or whatever. Therefore, I blame nobody but all of us for the misinformation that is out there. Therefore, I blame all of us who are responsible for that, of being insensitive to our responsibility of the people who depend on us. You can feel fear out there. The kind of information you gave out today, just imagine, Mel, when we were younger and our children was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever years of youth. You know how little bit of any information that may affect your child, just makes you heartbeat a little faster. And listening to today's information alone of miscommunication because of misunderstanding or people simplifying or people grandstanding is not the issue. When you hear one party says the impact of this virus is not as serious as the other virus without fully explaining it, excuse me, without fully explaining it, is doing an injustice, a tremendous injustice to people who hear that information. The people who brought it out originally, or that this is not as serious as Delta, made the mistake of using the words mild. But for some, it is just as serious or even more serious than other disease. What they were talking about in whole. But just to explain the difference between what that word means takes a lot of back and forth for clarification, and that's what we don't do. On your examples in regards to hypocrisy, sure, it sounds like hypocrisy, but I'm sure they didn't mean it that way. None of us mean it that way. I think we better back up, all of us, and start thinking and talking to each other because of the uncertainty factor out there a little better and not be so damn defensive on your viewpoint. What you said about what the mayor said in Oahu, I've heard it many, many times over in different people to explain what that meant and why is 1,000 okay and why is more than 1,000 okay as long as you give half capacity. If the place is 5,000 capacity, you know, get half of that, it's still 2,500. Why is that okay compared to other things? I learned that a long time ago, Mel, because of my responsibility on teaching of civil defense, LEAA, mayor. When you talk, you're talking to somebody, and your job is to make them understand what you're trying to say. I say to all our leaders in the nation, and Hawaii especially, because this is our home, we should all back up a little bit. There's thousands of people like Mel in regards to uncertainty, in regards to fear of what's going on, because of the information that's going on out there by so many different sources. I'll pick one big one recently. How can the head of CDC not consult with professional communicators or with other agency heads on what she intended to say? How can the head of CDC not understand that people will not understand what she is saying in regards to when and who and how, in regards to testing or detention length, etc.? How can a person of her intelligence, her status, not realize the extreme importance of every single word that comes out of her mouth? And now people are trying to explain saying there will be clarification and different kind of things as we go along. But the damage has already been done for more confusion. But I'm picking on her because it's easy to pick on her because she's making the national headlines on that. Or even when the president says something, or even when our governor says something, or any other leader, you have to speak and understand who you're talking to and what you're trying to communicate. And I ask all of us to back up a little bit, lean on each other a little bit, not be so damn defensive, not be so selfish in regards to headlines time, of grandstanding, of ambitions, or even money. I'll make up a number. You know, Mel, the vast majority of the people of this land that we love as our home and good people are not heavy into politics, are not heavy into huge monies decision. They worry about their children, their family, their tutus as number one. Our job is to communicate with them and provide a program for them to see us through this. Now, I'll get personal in regards to, and I'm not saying I'm right. You know, I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not saying they're wrong. We're all right and we're all wrong of varying degrees. But some time ago, I've told certain leaders, including our governor, and in something like this, it affects the whole state. You have to build the confidence of the people out there. You have to have a uniform central command system that controls the information for accuracy and conveys the meaning of what you want to convey. And in recent weeks of saying the extreme importance of developing a statewide testing program that will also include the purpose of testing, of treatment, of monitoring, vaccination, the whole works. You have to develop a professional education communication system that the people can trust and count on. That doesn't take away from anybody else's freedom to say what they want to say, but they will learn to depend on those that they feel is of trust, that has only one mission to inform the public what's going on. I'll make no bones about it. We're not doing a good job of that. I feel there is so much misinformation based on different information. And we all know the story about one word goes from one mouth to the other mouth, and by the third or fourth mouth, it changes so bad. We all have to know that basic principle and why we have to consistently communicate certain information. I'll close on that subject on this, Mel. Anybody viewing you on this program can feel your sadness and also your fear. I had a friend call me today that his whole family, a mama, papa, three children, was identified as positive, and how it devastated him. Blurting out questions, where's the follow up, this and that, this and that. Frustration will start to grow, and I think we should all be prepared for a simple fact. This virus can be transplanted from one person to the other so easily. This virus has just begun westward movement finally to Hawaii, and we have yet to see the peak of it. This virus will rise its course. We, of people of this land, has one major advantage. We're the westernmost end of the states, moving from Africa to Europe to East Coast to here. Not in a straight line, obviously. We have the advantage of a lot of knowledge that we can learn from. We have the advantage of a tremendous amount of progress the medical world, and we should all take advantage of that. I know there are people that are steadfast in regards to not being vaccinated for their personal reasons, and that's their reason. That's their right. But you have no right to endanger others. I'll answer any question you have, Mel.
Well, thank you
Well,
very
thank you
much,
very much,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Um, I'm not sure where that echo is coming from, but it might be just my AirPods. Anyway, thank you again. You break it down so simply. I will say that as you talk about the communication and the messaging that we've been hearing for so long now, in Hawaii, when you turn on the news, you get the local news, and then you get the world news, and then they come back to the local news. And if you watch the local news and then you watch the world news, same station, you get a completely different picture of this virus. If you listen to, and I guess I'm biased because we've had a lot of experts on our show that I've had the blessing to get to meet, but I also have listened to many others on different platforms that basically echo what our experts are saying as it relates to the virus. I'm having a problem, and trust me, Mayor, we have tried to get our points across. We've had members of the legislature pop in on our show and listen to the experts. The experts that we have on our show are on the local news, they're on national news. It's This is where I'm struggling. Our guests and the majority of experts that are out there that are on the news and on the different programs are saying the same thing about this virus. But that's not the message we're getting from our state. I had hoped that by now, some of our leaders uh, would have started to pay attention to what the true experts are saying. Because I cannot find too many experts that are out there saying that this virus is mild and that, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to worry. I hear that several times a week on the morning news. Again, I'm not going to mention names. I think our viewers knew who I'm talking about. So that's the frustration I have. And and correct me if I'm wrong, and you were a mayor, you were active, you're a very active working mayor that will always be known as the civil defense mayor. You did it so well. You did it right. You set up a system that was, and you talked about this on our show, and we have spoken about this offline. You set up a system of communication that prevented this type of confusion and misinformation from getting out. One beat, one drum, one team, one dream, all those cliches, but it's true and it works. We're not getting that. But this is the question I have, Mayor. And was there ever a time in your history as a mayor or as a civil defense director, was there ever a time that our state went through a crisis, regardless of what it was? Might have been a volcano, might have been a hurricane, a tornado, may have been crime sprees, may have been uh, drunk driving accidents, fatalities, whatever the crisis may have been at the time. When we came across a situation or a snapshot in time where there was an issue, do you remember a time where there was absolute silence from our legislature. N- I hear nothing. And you and I both know a lot of these guys. I consider them my friends, many of them. But when was the last time you remember that a crisis that is probably the largest crisis this state will have in this generation, but absolute silence from our legislative body at the state level and the county levels for that matter. When Red Hill came up, when Red Hill hit the news, all legislators from all over the state got involved, stood up, fought the Navy. Every one of them. I joke all the time that some of these guys that were on the news I had never heard of. I didn't know who they were, but it was a safe issue to fight, right? Because the community was not divided. The community was very strongly concerned about what was happening on Oahu with the fuel in the water. So it was a very politically safe fight to fight. In politics, a lot of you know this. I'm a very outspoken guy. When I was on the county council, and some of the staffers would always tell me, Mel, you got to pick your battles. You got to pick your battles. Yeah, you pick your battles, but when you see something happening and people getting hurt, injured, or getting in trouble, then you have a duty and obligation to stand up on whatever side of the aisle you believe in. You have an obligation to stand up. So my question is, do you ever remember a time when a crisis hit our state that there was a deafening silence from our state legislature? And I respect you more than you will ever know, Mayor, but I am not trying to criticize. I'm trying to understand why that is happening. That's all.
I think the perfect example of what you're saying is, I'll tell you what I'm perhaps maybe the most concerned about, the whole picture today, not demeaning what we're talking about. Once in a while, my two good friends from, as they say, small kid time, come to my house and we just talk story. One of them, and we call each other brothers. I lived in a place unbelievable, Mel. He and I, house next to my place, my parents' place, in the middle of the forest. I haven't seen electricity or running water, paved road until I was 19 years old. That's my life. But what a beautiful life it was of trust, of purity, of nature. We were talking about what you just talked about, but it was related to the word trust when he said, and we talk pigeon all the time, I don't know who to trust. Politics and another discussion, we cause it, I don't know, political, it's a career. I was there for 12 years as mayor. I was lucky because from the very beginning I was taught not to get into that role where your life is the politics of being reelected. But it was easier to see where this fear comes and goes in people of not offending others, or being on the right side and not the wrong side. And when you let those things start to govern your positions, you find, I think, a very shallow type of direction you take. And I'm sure I'm getting a lot of politicians swearing at me already. I think if they dig down deep, they don't know what I'm talking about, because you're right on this issue. I'm hoping of what we're covering today, people will speak up. So I'll cover it again now. I believe at this time, this state needs a comprehensive, uniform action plan on testing, monitoring, of tracing, of housing, of treatment. I've told this to the governor, and obviously I was not successful. I truly believe in that. It does not mean that every county or every jurisdiction within each county will have the same degree of that same program, but they will have a testing program flexible to that jurisdiction, controlled by central control. They will have a monitoring system to ensure that a timely response is given to the tests and to follow up. We will have a school system that will be under the same system in regards to the policies. So, unlike today, there's so much confusion between this district because they have relatives in different islands or different districts. I'm hoping that this program will result in questioning of me directly. What was the program that you were recommending? It's the same program that I recommended in February of the year 2020 when this all began for the island of Hawaii because I was mayor, I could implement it. Regardless of jurisdiction, regardless of the scope of the emergency, I believe in absolute uniformity in information dissemination. I believe in absolute completeness in regards to monitoring the whole situation. Anyone who worked in Hawaii County knows that our first job is to know the hazard. It's not as just simple as monitoring it and being taught once. It's something that you do every day, especially something like this. It is our responsibility after you know the hazard to know the risk of that hazard and monitor that as well. It's our responsibility that after you establish the programs based on the hazard and the risk, you monitor those programs regularly because it might change in regards to the hazard and the risk, and you have to change with it. All of this was communicated back in the year 2020 where I felt we should go. I feel very strongly in that. I feel that more strongly, more so today than when I first talked to authorities of that. And I will make this clear. My job here is not to say who's right or wrong. I'm voicing my opinion on what we did and what others have, conveyed to me on different kind of emergencies based on that same principle. Right now, we have all collectively, Mel, have got to stop just for a minute and review what's really going on of each county, each authority level, step aside in regards to our own ego trips, get the best experts we have. And there are some real good people here. I don't mean just on the state of Hawaii. And develop a program that is communicated that the people will begin a very difficult task of trusting us for what we're doing and why we're doing. I feel at this time there's very little of that trust.
And that's the sad reality, Mayor. And I didn't even give you a proper introduction, but I think there's some of our villagers in here that may not know, have heard of Mayor Kim, but and I know you don't like when you get accolades, but I want to say that Mayor Kim is known as the uh, emergency response leader. When Kauai went through a hurricane many, many, many years ago, they deployed Mayor Kim to Kauai. He wasn't the mayor at the time, but he was the civil defense head for the Big Island, and he was sent to Kauai to help us with the hurricane. What you just said, uh, your plan of action that you proposed 2 years ago, that model is what works with all disasters, crisis. I in the military, that's the formula. And you said it. Number one, you got to know the risk, and you need to accept the reality of the risk. And that is where I think we struggle, because, as you said, there's so many different versions of the risk. For the life of me, I don't understand how we don't have a statewide system in place. We're going on year three of this. We don't have a plan. Um, I had a message probably an hour ago from another good friend whose son tested positive, school student, tested positive. Uh, Mom took him to urgent care to get a. They did a home test positive. Took him to urgent care, confirmed positive. We have a system that, remember, the state bragged about this Aloha Safe app that was on your phone. That is the one of the most important tools of contact tracing. South Korea used it from the beginning. It works. And I remember when they cut the red ribbon and they put out the bans to say that we got this fantastic app that's going to let you know if you came in contact with someone that tested positive. So this person, the mom, when the Department of Health calls, see, when you test positive, you got to enter your information into this app, but you require a code that you get from the Department of Health. When she spoke to the Department of Health employee, the person at the Department of Health did not know what the Aloha Safe program was. Did not know anything about a code that was needed for this mom to put into the phone, so that anyone that came within a close distance to her son would be notified that they have been exposed. Again, it's hard to have a discussion without pointing out the flaws. I'm not trying to be a prick, pardon my French, but it goes to exactly what you're saying. There's a state. This is a statewide pandemic. It's a worldwide pandemic, and we don't have a statewide plan, which makes it very confusing. We I heard today Senator Kochi and House Speaker Saiki was on. They were on Spotlight today, and they were talking about the budget. And the question asked of them was, in the governor's budget, and Mayor, you're very familiar with this. In the governor's budget, he has $1 billion, 1 billion. That's right, with a B, going into the rainy day fund. The other night on the show, or it may have been on one of our discussions that I've had recently, I spoke of the importance of making sure that if our kids are going to be going to in-person school, in-person learning, that our kids should be outfitted with the proper mask. I believe the state should provide that. Mayor Blangiardi was asked today at his press conference, would the county be providing these masks to people? You see, Mayor, and you know this, you come from very humble beginnings, as I have. Not everyone can afford N95 masks. Not everyone can afford testing every third day or fourth day. Uh, Not everyone has the ability to go drive and wait 3 hours for a test that's provided by the county. You said something early on that stuck in my head, is the statewide testing program. So while I don't mean to criticize, I cannot help myself but to share the shortcomings, because It is in exactly in line with what you're saying. Statewide program means you have a statewide testing program. You have a statewide vaccination program. You have a statewide masking program for our kids that go to a state sponsored school. That's non existent. So, what do you do, Mayor, for those children that cannot afford an N95 and they have the same cloth mask that they had 2 years ago? It's not fitted, it's dirty, it's probably has COVID virus in there or some other virus. How do we, as a state, with $1 billion that they're planning to put into a rainy day fund? If you ask me, Mayor, it's raining right now. It's raining right now. So, I, how do we get this statewide plan implemented? I hesitate to bring this up, but I have to make my point. When and I don't want to have a long debate about this, and don't even comment about it because we're not going to entertain anything about this. But the Mauna Kea situation on the Big Island, there, that's a state issue. That was not a county issue. But the problem when you're good at what you do, as you are, it got put in your lap to try to manage. You did a hell of a job, man. People respect you and they trust you. How do we get that back from our leadership? How do we get that back when we cannot even hear from them? And how do we even start to convince them that we need a statewide plan? If the medical experts, the leadership experts, such as yourself, cannot get through to them, how is someone like me or our villagers here watching can even hope to get an inch of their time to share what we believe?
I think the circumstances of what is facing the state today have and will create that atmosphere of almost forcing us to take a look at what we're not doing right or what we are doing right and go full speed ahead on that with a cooperation and working relationship with almost everyone. The first thing all of us have to know is about this virus. There's a consistency in regards to that virus. I mentioned earlier in brief of learning from Africa to Europe to the East Coast and downwards. We have people that I depend on are learning a lot from some of the European countries. And there is no mistake about this by anyone. This virus, when they started to use the word mild, was used in comparison to Delta virus. At no time did they mean it to the extent where someone was interpreting it. By mild, they didn't mean it's just going to be a cough for the most part and it's over. This is not a mild virus. In regards to how contagious it is 3-4 times more than Delta and the other COVIDs. And who knows what's tomorrow. But they also emphasize the uncertainty on how it will affect others, like children, like we are finding out now. All of those things, I told you so, or we're not prepared, that we have to put aside, as I told you before, Mel. This virus is upon us. It comes in a very, very perfect storm situation. School started, wintertime. Just to combine those two tells you we have got to get off the damn bucket and start working together. There's information now coming out by people who are studying it of not knowing how this virus will affect people in the long run. And that's almost all new diseases. We don't know how it's going to affect. A very poor example, and I'm saying a very poor example because obviously it's not a virus. Not you, because you're so much younger than I am, of business, of government flaunting cigarettes as macho, feminine, and all of that. Nothing known about cancer. Then we know. And information coming from people who study of secondhand smoke. People my age would kind of laugh, what's secondhand smoke? Then more studies in regards to finding out that potentially it might be even more dangerous than firsthand smoke. I need to pay you all to pay attention to the key words that people have been saying from the beginning. A pandemic is new. We know very little about it. We will learn as we go. Obviously, none of us heard of this delta that just is now waning in regards to the importance of numbers and what's there now. Nobody ever heard of it. Everybody thought that delta was it. And look what we're facing with. I thank God for science. I thank God for where we are on vaccination. People that are criticizing it and say, wait a minute, first you said one shot for some, Johnson and Johnson, now two shots, and now after 5 months, used to be six, we got three shots. You can't criticize them. They are learning as they go and they are adjusting their recommendation based on what they learn of something new. So we got to back up on that and understand why it's changing and be prepared for that kind of changes that will continue. I think most of your listeners should remember when the Delta 19 first came out, the focus was on seniors, especially those with underlying diseases. And I can dig out many, many printouts that said somehow it's not addressing children. Now look what the latest emphasis concern is children on this new virus. All of your listeners, Mel, have got to back off of just criticism and understand the initial definition of a pandemic situation. It is something new, and we'll learn as we go, and we'll adjust as we go. And that's why the plan I told the governor you have to has to be monitored every single damn day to keep up with the change and communicate that change to the public we are responsible for. Mel, I think you have a lot of influence that I wish I had. The avenue of
No, I don't
no,
know. I
that's
don't.
the
I
truth.
think
That is the
I
truth.
think it's like what the heck was that commercial when no, who was that thing when so and so speaks, everyone listens. What the hell was that? Was it insurance company or whatever it was? Whatever. No, but you are dead on right. Uh, we gotta and we tried. We shifted gears after the one discussion we had offline, Mayor. We try to shift gears and we try to really and we continue to do so. But um, I just saw a comment saying at least Mel's able to laugh. Yeah, thank you. That's why this guy does this to me, people. This guy does it to me. I say nothing happens by accident. Um, I really forgot what the heck I was going to say, and it was very important too. But from day one, you talked about the kids. I'll never forget. That was, I mean, we spoke offline before you actually came on the show, and I remember your concern for the kids, and you brought up a very good point right now. But I wanted to just remember what I was going to say. I cannot understand people that question science, right? Because we know this thing changes every day. Uh, I never questioned the need for a booster. I think many of the experts on our show from early on said there would be a high probability that we would need to get a booster at some point. No one knew if it was going to be 6 months, a year, or a year and a half. But based on the data that was coming out of these countries that were ahead of us, that we would need a booster. So I agree with you 100%. And it frustrates me when people uh, criticize or try to debunk science. Now, what that's different though from criticizing the misinformation and the miscommunication, like you mentioned earlier with the CDC director. That's not science. She's not explaining the science. In fact, they went from 10 days to 5 days without any explanation except, oh, we're finding in most cases you're infectious only till for 5 days. Not long ago, it was 14 days. And then it went to 10. And we understand the reality. It was really a business economic decision rather than a safety and health decision. And we're seeing that. You're seeing the impacts this is having on the travel industry. You're seeing it at the DOE now with the amount of teachers that are out. We're seeing it in restaurants and hotels because people are getting sick. Now we're putting them back to work after 5 days only to potentially infect others. So the science is going to change, whether it's 6 months, 5 months. Every single day that goes by, we get more data that's real from cases that are real, from studies that are real, and we got to adjust and adapt. I agree with you 100%. But with it, this is the frustration. What we follow the science, we respect the science, and then you watch the local news, and all of a sudden, there's a different message. And that is why, Mayor, I will pray tonight by some miracle of God that tomorrow morning, Governor Ige calls you up and says, hey, Harry, I need you to lead our statewide task force on COVID 19. I'm going to hand this over to you, Mayor Kim, and please come on and take over the management of our COVID 19 crisis here in the state of Hawaii. If that happens, it won't, but you never know. I would sleep better at night. I would feel so much more relief. And I know for a fact that that would save lives, that would save jobs, that would save everything. I don't say that to blow smoke up your cole, Mayor, but what I just heard in the last 45 minutes, to me, is simple crisis management that I learned many, many, many years ago. You have proven that it works. You have proven that with that type of leadership, that type of statewide program that is transparent, factual, regardless of the facts. I mean, can you imagine, Mayor, in one of your volcanic eruptions that the lava was heading towards a subdivision and you went up and you told the public because you didn't want to raise fear and you wanted people to be calm and cool, and you'd say, you guys don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. We know that the pattern of the lava flow like this that happened in Pampaete or wherever, but we're not concerned, people. We're not concerned. Just live your life and you'll be okay. That is what's happening in Hawaii right now. I heard it on the morning news this week, as recent as this week, where the people were told if you're vaccinated and boosted, you have nothing to worry about. And Mayor, you and I and our villagers know that is simply not the case. But that is the message that we're getting. So,
Can I say something on that?
absolutely.
I don't know. If you talk to the governor, there's nothing I told you and on the air now that is not of absolute truth. Of trying to appeal for a uniform, centralized system. If asked, the governor has people on his staff like General Hara, is a good leader if given that responsibility. And I'll gladly work with him, and many doctors will jump in. I guarantee you that. But we have a leader in our state that I'm going to take this opportunity to address is President David Lassner. I met him for the first time in regards to because of Mauna Kea. And then there came the pandemic, and I bucked heads with the University of Hawaii. And I bucked heads because I did not want the university to open up the school the fall before. And that absolutely students should not be allowed to come in from afar, and everybody else should be online. And naturally, they didn't support that. But as time went on, you know, individuals on different side of the road with the same, goal of safety. He followed that, and I've watched him ever since. But like right now, take a look at what he's already said. He's for the campus online, and we'll see if any other changes will have to be made as we go on. I hope the governor calls and asks for at least explanation of right now what do we do, and I'll close with this. I know the intent of why authorities were given to the mayors, and it's a right one in regards to input. But you can have all of that. It does not affect the statewide system of policies of discussion instead of pressure on a politician or those kind of pressures that should not be the governing rule. I also will say my prayer that we all will set aside our differences a little bit with one goal, go in a direction that is best for the vast majority of the people of this land, and especially our tutus and our children who depend on us.
Very sincere, genuine. You see, I think that's why we need, leaders like yourself who can speak rationally. And we spoke earlier, and I know we're just about at the top of the hour, and I really appreciate your time again. Um, but we talked about you talked about politicians, and once they start to have a biased uh, judgment, then that's when things go sideways. You've seen it, I've seen it. I see people come in the 12 years that I served. I've seen new council members come in with everyone runs pretty much. I wouldn't say all, but most people run for public office because they want to make a difference. They want to contribute to the communities they live in, and that's what triggers them or gets them off to run. And over time, a lot of them change. A lot of them starts to look at that as a career. And that's what creates a problem when people start looking at their elected office as a career. And I remember probably telling every single new council member that ever stepped in that council while I was there. I remember telling people, the new guys or the new gals, when they would ask me, it's so hard now. You get, every time somebody's gonna be upset, and I said exactly right. They'll love you this week and they'll hate you next week, depending on what you vote. And that's how this job is. So the best thing to do is do what you believe is right in your heart, because then it really doesn't matter, right? You are doing what you believe is right in the best interest of the people that you serve. And the other thing I would say, when they would be struggling with an issue, I would say think back to the day you decided to run for office, and think of the reason why. It makes it easier when you take the politics out of it, when you take the special interests out of it, when you take the lobbyists out of it, and you just focus on the issue at hand and what is the benefit of the community that you serve. It becomes so much easier. Am I right or am I right, Mayor?
Yes, sir, and maybe we can sort of step back a little bit and do what we feel is right by heart. And even if it differs from others, we open up our heart to listen to them too.
Absolutely. Well, it's almost 8 o'clock, Mayor. I do want to give you some time to share your closing comments, and of course, again, thank you so much for being here tonight. The floor is yours.
To all your viewers and listeners, Mel, truly, we've all got to slow down a little bit of fear, of anger, or distrust. Remember what I printed almost two in March, the 1st of March of 2020. This is a community issue and it will take a community to address it and take control of it. If any time that the community needs to do this, it is now. The only other times I can remember of the importance of it is a war. But this is a war. Only our enemy is a virus. I ask all of us, as they say, put down our swords and see how we can work together to address this. And I'll close with sort of a negative but a positive. The height of the virus on the Hawaii state has not yet reached us. All the experts will tell you that. It has not yet reached us. The number of people affected will grow and grow. How much? I don't know. Conservatives say it'll be over as far as a peak in a month. Whether it be more or less, who knows? Time will know. We do know it. It's just beginning to hit us and climb. We need to be able to lean each other and not be afraid of our differences, politicians as well as others, and see where we can go as a group. Because of where medicine is today, we have the tools to come out the winner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to our viewers. Thank you, Mayor, again for being here. It's always a pleasure. You're blessed to have you here. I always try to share the village, which is like the Ohana. We are one big, huge village. Not just the people on our show, not just our people that are viewers, but all. Our entire state is one community. And the mayor is right. We gotta get through this together. And somehow we gotta figure out how to do that. Um, Tonight was a special night. It was a rotten day, but it's ending up okay. I do want to say on Friday night we'll have Daniel Ross from the Hawaii the Nurses Association. He'll be our guest to share with us what's going on um, with our healthcare workers around the state. I bring that up because there's a few things I want to say real quick, Mayor. Number one, we got to pray for our healthcare workers. We got to pray for everyone in our healthcare system. They are stressed, they are overwhelmed, they're overtasked, they are tired. Many of them are sick, and not just the nurses and the doctors, but all the support staff that helps them get their job done. Also, got to pray for our teachers and our school staff, all of them, from the custodians to the principals, but those teachers who are trying to do what is right, who's trying to make sure our kids get the education that they need. And they're in a very tough situation now. Many of them are sick. And I do want to ask for your prayers again for Brittany Cavallo Brady, our former Mayor Bernard Cavallo's daughter, who's fighting for her life right now at Queens with a 7-month-old unborn child. And also to that family, I'm not going to mention names, but many of you know, and but one of our police officers here on Kauai, young in his 40s, passed away today from COVID. Um, just ask you all to pray for that family. God knows who he is, so you don't need the name. And then, Mayor, we pray for you as well, and pray for all of our leaders, all of our decision makers. We need help, and we need it now. And We love you guys, man. We do this because we want to keep everyone safe and alive. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we'll continue to do what we do. Appreciate you guys' class tonight. You guys were cool. I love it. Take care. God bless. Mayor, appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe. God bless. We will be in touch.
You bet. Thank you, Mel.